This is Baalbek in the Lebanon. Each of these 3 blocks weighs 900 tons.
Like, what is the weight of that? What's the overall weight?
That's 1.7 million pounds.
Klaus Schmidt's groundbreaking discoveries at Göbekli Tepe revealed secrets that changed our understanding of ancient history. Before his death, he uncovered a terrifying truth about the Baalbek megaliths, an ancient mystery that could rewrite everything we know about human civilization. Prepare to uncover the hidden past like never before. The Baalbek megaliths, the Trilithon, and the other megaliths at Baalbek are some of the biggest rocks that people have ever moved. Every block weighs more than 800 tons. How people built things in the past seems very different after seeing these huge stones. It has been hundreds of years, and archaeologists still don't have a clear answer for how these big, complicated stones got to where they are now. Old stories say that the Phoenicians built Baalbek's huge stone buildings. Before he died, Klaus Schmidt had a much weirder idea. He was famous for his work at Göbekli Tepe. Schmidt says the Phoenicians did not build the stones of Baal. Not that, he says. They were made by a much older and more advanced group of people. He thought that this group of people knew how to move and set these big stones, but that knowledge had been lost to time. Scientists still don't understand how those huge stones were moved before modern tools. Most people think of rolling, sledges, or stairs, but because the stones are so heavy and big, none of those ideas really seems likely. Schmidt had a different thought. He believed that the methods used to move and set up the Baalbek megaliths were based on old technologies or skills that people had forgotten or lost. He thought about an old way of building that was a lot more advanced than what we normally think of as old. But Schmidt didn't just think these stones were big. He also thought they showed that people in that time were very advanced. Schmidt said the tools needed to move and place these stones could not have been made on their own. It was full of the remains of a long-gone society. This group of people lived before all other known ancient cultures. Schmidt thought the Baalbek megaliths were more than just an old building feat. He thought they showed a history of technology that we still don't fully understand. Schmidt's idea changes a lot of things. If he is right, the Baalbek stones not only show how skilled one old culture was, but also how smart a culture was that has been forgotten by history. This idea goes against what we think we know about past societies and makes us think about what they were able to do. Scary as it may seem, a lot of what we think we know about our past might not be true. This is because there was a society that knew a lot about the past, but lost all of its knowledge and technology. Schmidt's ideas about the Baalbek megaliths might change everything we know about how people came to live on Earth. People who lived a long time before the Egyptians or the Mesopotamians might have made these stones. This would show that our history goes back much further than we thought. It would make people doubt the idea that Egypt in the past was the start of the best achievements in human history. It means that there may have been cultures a long time ago that had great technologies and knowledge that we no longer have access to. As we learn more about Baalbek, Schmidt's ideas make more sense. They were part of a much larger group than the Phoenician society that is usually linked to the site. This is clear from the huge size of the megaliths, how exactly they were placed, and how hard they were built. We might be able to learn about a long-lost society from these stones. This could change the course of history. What Schmidt wants to know about the Baalbek megaliths isn't just about old ways of building. He also wants to know what people knew in the past that we don't know now. He was scared about more than just how these huge stones were put together in his last thoughts. He was scared about what it would mean to find a society that was so advanced but so hidden that it tests everything we thought we knew about the past. As we continue to explore Baalbek, the mystery deepens. The more we uncover, the more questions arise. Were these megaliths truly constructed by an ancient civilization with knowledge far beyond our own? If so, what else did they know that we don't yet know? It's possible that the truth about the Baalbek megaliths is scarier than we thought. The solutions could change the course of history forever. What Schmidt discovered, Klaus Schmidt's work at Göbekli Tepe, changed the way we think about old societies. With its huge stone columns and elaborate carvings, the site showed a level of sophistication that many people thought only came about in later societies, like those in Mesopotamia or Egypt. Schmidt's find wasn't just the stones. It was also the information that was needed to build such a site, which was much more advanced than we thought early humans could have had. His discoveries showed that people had a deep knowledge of astronomy, geometry, and building with stone. These things suggested that the people who lived in those times were very smart and lived long before cities were built. But what if Göbekli Tepe wasn't the only case like this? What if the same ancient knowledge had been passed down over long distances, affecting other great places like Baalbek? Schmidt thought there was a secret link between Göbekli Tepe and Baalbek, two places that were thousands of miles apart but had the same amazing understanding of architecture. The trilithon megaliths, which are huge stones that are impossible to build with modern technology, stood at Baalbek as silent reminders of a once advanced society. Schmidt thought that it was likely that the same builders who built the structures at Göbekli Tepe also built Baalbek's huge stone structures. The makers of Baalbek could have easily used the astronomy and geometry skills that were used to make Göbekli Tepe. This would have made it easier for them to move and place stones that were so huge. But how could those kinds of facts be shared across space and time? Schmidt's theory was risky. He said there was an even older society that existed before the known ancient ones, and that technology and knowledge had been passed down from generation to generation. He thought that the ways that Baalbek was built were probably based on technologies that had been laid to rest by wars, natural disasters, and changes in culture over the course of hundreds of years. Like the builders of Göbekli Tepe, the builders of Baalbek didn't leave any written accounts or proof of how they did their work. The strange things they used to know became stories, and only their huge buildings remain as proof of their amazing abilities. Schmidt's private notes gave hints about these methods that were lost. He thought that the Baalbek megaliths were built using a mix of techniques that modern engineering can't fully explain. Some of these skills may have required accurate measurements, advanced stone-cutting techniques, and even a deep understanding of nature, which are all things that modern humans didn't learn again until a very long time later. Schmidt says that the builders of Baalbek did more than just build buildings. They were experts at their job in ways that go beyond what we know about ancient building. He thought that these techniques were part of an old tradition that had been passed down to a small group of people and would be lost forever when the society that made them disappeared. The scary part of Schmidt's idea was coming to this conclusion. If Baalbek's megaliths were built by a long-lost society, they weren't just amazing works of architecture. They were tombstones leaving a record of a culture that had vanished without a trace. Schmidt's discovery made it seem like Baalbek and other ancient sites were the only proof of a once thriving society that had been erased from history. I find it scary to think that such a complex society could disappear, leaving only stones behind. It makes you wonder what happened to them, which is a scary thought. Where did this advanced society go? And why did they forget everything they knew? Schmidt's last discovery wasn't just about old building techniques. It was about how civilizations work in general. If an entire culture could be erased from history, leaving only the ruins of its grand buildings, what does that say about how fragile our knowledge is? Schmidt found more and more evidence that ancient societies may have gone through a cycle of rise and fall that we still don't fully understand. The megaliths at Baalbek might have been the last things left over from a time that ended in disaster, leaving us with a puzzle we still can't solve. The questions Schmidt brought up are still with us as we continue to learn more about Baalbek and other ancient places. Is there more to our past than what we've been taught? Could these huge rocks be the tip of the iceberg? What other finds are waiting to be found below the surface? It's possible that the answers are buried deep in the ground, ready to be found with the right technology and findings. The scary truth about what we've lost may finally be shown when they do. Rewriting the origins of civilization, Schmidt's discovery of the Baalbek megaliths and the theories he put forward make us face a shocking possibility. Everything we thought we knew about the past of people may be wrong. If the megaliths at Baalbek were built by a society that lived a very long time ago and used technologies that we still don't fully understand, it would completely change the course of human history. It is hard to believe that such complex buildings were built thousands of years before the Egyptians or the Sumerians. This idea challenges everything we think we know about the start of society. Could people have come from a more advanced and older place that has been lost to time? Schmidt's work at Göbekli Tepe made us rethink what early people were able to do. He thought that the people who built Baalbek in the past, like the people who built Göbekli Tepe, were not alone in their knowledge and skills. They were connected to many other civilizations and shared advanced building and architecture skills, and maybe even an understanding of things like geometry, astronomy, and stone carving. Schmidt said that these societies were linked in ways that we still don't fully understand. These skills weren't just learned and passed down by one society. They were learned by a global network of ancient people who lived on different continents and may have been in contact with each other for thousands of years. Schmidt suggested that this worldwide network of old cultures wasn't just in what we now call the ancient world. These civilizations spoke the same language, which allowed them build on a level that is hard for us to imagine now. It looks like the megaliths at Baalbek and the pyramids of Egypt were all part of a much bigger picture that linked these ancient cultures that lived very far apart. But where did this network go? This information and technology went away, leaving us with only ruins to study. Why did they go away? The scary truth that Schmidt was pointing out was that this advanced society wasn't just the basis for later cultures. It was wiped out by a disaster, leaving only traces of how great they were. Like the pillars at Göbekli Tepe, the megaliths at Baalbek may be all that's left of a society that lived a long time before the first known societies. But the question that still stands is, why did they disappear? Did a natural disaster, a huge war, or something else wipe out a society that was so advanced that we're still trying to figure out what they did? We have to face an uncomfortable truth with this theory. What if our past isn't complete? What if the real beginnings of society are buried under layers of time, erased by forces we can't understand? It looks more and more like we've been missing parts of a much bigger story as we learn more about Baalbek and other ancient places. What's left behind might be all we have, and it might hold answers to problems we haven't even thought of. The idea that a terrible event wiped out a whole society goes against the usual story of human history. We've always thought that civilization grew over time with farming, writing, and more complicated societies coming into being. But what if these changes weren't the beginning? What if they were just the next step in a much older story that we haven't even started to fully understand? People from these ancient societies could have taught their children and grandchildren, but a lot of what they knew was lost over time. It's possible that the megaliths at Baalbek are the only things left that remind us of what came before. Schmidt pointed out a scary truth that suggests these ancient societies were much more advanced than we've ever thought. They weren't just the basis for later cultures. Some of the clues they may have left behind are just now being found. What other hidden secrets might other ancient sites around the world be hiding if the megaliths of Baalbek are the only signs of a society that vanished without a trace? What does this mean for how we think about the past of people? What will we find next, though? What else will the old world teach us? And how will it change the way we think about ourselves and where we came from? We might be closer to the answers than we think, just waiting to be found, one piece at a time. The Secret Schmidt. Klaus Schmidt was a researcher whose work at Göbekli Tepe changed the way we think about how people lived in the past. He kept a secret about Baalbek until he died in 2014. It was the most important thing to him. Only a few close co-workers heard Schmidt's last words. They were unclear, but hinted at a scary truth. He learned things about the Baalbek megaliths that might change everything we think we know about the past. Schmidt might have thought that telling this truth would have been too dangerous and would have changed the way people usually thought about the past. He figured out a puzzle that links Baalbek's megaliths to a society that is much older and smarter than we thought possible. He left behind hints that help us solve this puzzle. Schmidt's last study said that Baalbek's megaliths were more than just amazing architectural works. They also showed that a long-lost technological marvel had been made. The huge stones, some of which weigh up to 800 tons, have always been strange. Schmidt, on the other hand, believed that these stones weren't moved by simple means or brute force. They were put there by someone who knew more about advanced geometry and math than the best builders of the past. Most likely, these makers from long ago used techniques that have been lost to time. What they knew was passed down from one family to the next, but in the end, only the stones were left behind. Schmidt thought that the news about how things were done at Baalbek might change everything about digging. People in the past might have been able to do things we don't fully understand. This makes us question everything we thought we knew about how far people have come. They lived a long time before the Egyptians or the Mesopotamians, so how did they know so much? Schmidt believed that the answer lay in the tools, methods, and information that had been lost over time, most likely due to time, war, or natural disasters. Schmidt's study showed that these methods weren't just a lucky accident. They were well thought out and showed a deep understanding of the world that historians of today still don't fully grasp. Schmidt's most surprising find was that the keys to making Baalbek were connected to things that people had forgotten. There was more to this story than just moving big stones or building big things. There was a whole way of thinking about technology from long ago that could have changed the way we think about past societies. Schmidt thought that these methods were either hidden or forgotten on purpose, maybe by people who didn't want to share their old information. The people who built Baalbek may have learned new things about nature, energy, and how to use what they had that we haven't found yet. Schmidt's thoughts showed that building Baalbek wasn't just about laying a lot of bricks. It was also about going back to old technologies that made it possible. There was no simple disappearance of these technologies. They were buried by time and wiped out by events that started a new era in human history. The stones at Baalbek are still there, though. They're like a quiet sign that points to something bigger than we can grasp. Schmidt's ideas were more than just a call to study old ways of building. They were also a call to question what we think we know about how society started. Schmidt only gave us hints about the answers we're looking for about Baalbek. What if those answers are hidden in plain sight, just waiting for modern technology to find them? What would happen to the whole story of human history if these answers finally shed light on the secret of Baalbek? What lies beneath the stones? Since Klaus Schmidt died in 2014, Baalbek has continued to be a very important topic of interest in the archaeological world. Experts and students are still interested in the megalithic site, which is already famous for its huge stones. Scholars can now look at the site in ways Schmidt could not have dreamed in his time, thanks to new archaeological tools like ground-penetrating radar and high-tech imaging. These methods are pushing the limits of what we know. They might show us more about how the site was built and could even prove or disprove Schmidt's big ideas about where it came from. One tool that lets archaeologists look below the ground without disturbing the spot is ground-penetrating radar. As these techniques get better, they might be able to find secret rooms, structures, or clues that they couldn't get to before. According to Schmidt, there may be deeper layers below the megaliths that could tell us more about the civilization that built Baalbek, or even support his theory that the site was built by a lost, ancient civilization with much more advanced technology than was thought before. These technologies could also show if the builders of Baalbek used building methods that were also used at other ancient sites, like Göbekli Tepe. This would support Schmidt's idea that everything is linked. Schmidt's ideas are still just that, thoughts. And a lot of what he felt is still up for debate. His ideas about how advanced technologies and methods were used to build Baalbek's megaliths go against what most people think we know about ancient societies. His ideas have caused a lot of interest, but solid proof is still hard to come by. With today's technology, new discoveries might one day lead to answers to these long-standing problems. Schmidt thinks that the Baalbek megaliths might be the last piece of the puzzle that will help us understand an ancient society that was probably much more advanced than we thought. Schmidt, on the other hand, is remembered for more than just his ideas about Baalbek. His work at Göbekli Tepe changed the way we think about ancient societies by showing that they had advanced knowledge and built huge structures long before written history became popular. His last words about Baalbek opened the door to a new era of historical discoveries that could change the way we think about history forever. The mystery of Baalbek continues to unfold. Like, share, and subscribe for more discoveries. Don't forget to click on the next video popping up on your screen to continue the journey into ancient secrets.